Hey everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to episode number 85 of the Chris Rose Rotation, a production of JOMBOY Media. And we're going to go throw with the opposite hand, at least my opposite hand today, in a herky-jerky motion, and that'll make it fun. We welcome San Francisco Giants left-hander and former World Series champion Alex Wood to the program. Happy New Year! And where's your Georgia Dogs gear?
Hey, I'm hoping next Monday they do it, man. I'm excited that there was a huge win against Michigan. We don't get too many blowouts like that, even when we're good. So I was pretty excited.
Yeah. So this is actually coming out the night of the championship game, which will be awesome. Will you be having a major party with like all your buddies from Athens? Do you watch it by yourself? When a game is that meaningful to you, how do you watch it?
Well, this past week we had a big party with all of our Georgia friends at the house, a little dinner and New Year's Eve party, and then watched the game. And so it went pretty good. I got a couple buddies that went full tux with a little humor on New Year's, but now they're going to be wearing it again for the game, I think. Oh. So it'll be pretty funny. But I'm not sure what we're going to do. I know my dad went to Georgia. I grew up a Georgia fan, and then my wife and I, my sister, and so my dad's going to be at the game in Indy, and so I'm considering going. But if not, I'll probably will stay at the house and watch it here.
Now, as a fan, is this like your number one fandom?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I grew up grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, 3.5 hours from Athens. My dad went there to school. So he grew up taking me to games there. And I was really fortunate because my dad went to Georgia. My mom went to Chapel Hill. So I grew up Georgia football and Carolina basketball. So I kind of had the best of both worlds, but I love Georgia through and through, man. Yeah, it's definitely my number one fandom as far as sports go. I love it.
All right. So it's one of my great regrets. I worked for CNN for 3 years early in my career, but I had to work since I was a young kid. I was 25 when I got there. I had to work every Saturday. So not once did I ever get between the hedges. Explain to our viewers what it's like to go to a huge SEC game between the hedges.
Oh, man, it's hard to put into words. Athens itself is just a special place because, it's literally no disrespect to the surrounding cities, but it's Athens, and that's really all that's going on, really around that area. And so it's its own. The college is the town, and so downtown, I think per capita, per square foot, I think it has the most bars in the shortest amount of distance as far as their downtown goes. When I was there was probably over 120 bars. You can walk in it literally when the game ends, win or lose. Usually they're winning, hopefully. You just see like 50,000 people literally walk from the stadium straight into downtown Athens. It really is. It's incredible. Tailgate. If it's a mid-afternoon or night game, it's just, there's nothing like it, man. We got to get you there. I told Jock Peterson for years, I'm like, you got to go to Athens and catch a game. So he was riding the wave of the World Series of the Braves this past year. And he literally, Jock texted me at like 5 a.m. the morning after they won, like the night before they won. I woke up to a text and he sent me at 5 a.m. and all it said was Athens on Saturday ? And I got so excited, but we were actually, we were already going out of town. So I was like, but I'll set you up, dude. I was like, you got to go. Cause it was on his dad's bucket list to get to an SEC game. And get to see Georgia play. So they went and I can't remember I think they played Missouri that weekend. So it was an all right game, but he loved it. And so anytime I can bring anybody or set anybody up, I'm happy to do it.
That is awesome. So what year did you graduate? What year were you out of there?
My last year at Georgia was 2012.
All right. So you were there when AJ Green was there.
Yeah. So I actually, my freshman year, East Campus Village is where they put up all the athletes your freshman year when you have to live on campus. And so, but a lot of the football players will choose to stay in East Campus Village for like their sophomore, junior, senior, whatever year. It's an option for them. And so I actually lived a couple doors down from AJ my freshman year. So it was pretty cool.
So did he like some football players, they don't understand baseball. Some guys played it. Some guys love it. Where did he fit in that group?
It wouldn't surprise me if AJ was pretty good with a bat in his hand. They used to, a lot of the guys' favorite thing to do was go play rec basketball at the rec center. And AJ would go and play. And a lot of people don't know, I'm pretty certain that AJ had a full ride scholarship for basketball to UConn. on top of the whole football thing. And so he used to go and he would tear people up at the rec center and play pickup basketball. And a lot of people would go and watch him. He's one of the freakiest athletes I've ever seen, for sure.
Yeah, he ended up making a good choice.
Yeah, pretty good choice.
Yeah, we'll see him in Canton one day. Top 5 pick. He did So you grew up in Charlotte. Did that make you a Braves fan? Because that's Braves territory.
Yeah. So long story short, my dad grew up like from birth through high school in Long Island, New York.
Oh, forget it.
So my dad was a Mets fan, but obviously, I mean, with Turner South or whatever, and living in the South growing up, I mean, you catch the Cubs and the Braves every day on TV. Yeah. And so, I mean, the Braves, I was split between two NL East rivals. I was a Braves fan and a Mets fan. I remember the first game my dad ever took me to at Turner Field. I was wearing a Braves t-shirt and a Mets hat at the stadium. I used to have Bobby Bonilla's glove, like his Rawlings glove growing up. I probably still have it somewhere in my parents' house, but I really loved both. And obviously when the Mets Braves had Tom Glavine, Tom Glavine goes to the Mets signed Pedro. A lot of these guys that they had coming in and out. Carlos Beltran, when he was a Met, it's crazy that I played against Carlos and thinking about him back on the Mets way a long time ago. Just crazy.
Was that like one of your welcome to the MLB moments? Like when you're facing a guy, you're like, wait a second, I'm facing Carlos Beltran right now. This is the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, my first moment like that was spring training my first year with the Braves. We went down to the Red Sox, and when at that time we were in Orlando for spring training. So going to the Red Sox spring training was like 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45-minute drive. So nobody wanted to throw that game. So my first spring training, they gave me a spot start. I threw like 1 or 2 innings against the Red Sox down at their place, and my third hitter I faced was Big Papi, and that was my first like, oh shit moment. You know what I mean?
When that happens, do you have to step off the mound, or did you have to play? Like, I'm sorry, I get it. You're a big leaguer, or you're on your way to making it to the big leagues, but it's still that moment where you're like, holy shit, that's Big Papi.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, if anything, I just wanted to get him out more. I didn't want him to hit a nuke off me. So I think I struck him out on a breaking ball. So it was a nice moment for me, for sure.
That's awesome. All right, so I want to take you back. How old are you? 30?
30, yeah.
Okay. So you're 30. So you're old enough to remember the 99 NLCS, where I think it was 99, where the Mets played the Braves and they ended up losing. There was like a walk to send the Braves to the World Series. I think that if I'm remembering this right, your dad, y'all must have had a very conflicted household.
Well, yeah, we did, but he was happy that I liked both teams. I loved baseball like he did, so he didn't give me too hard of a time. And he liked the Braves too. But I mean, he was Mets through and through. I mean, he's a New Yorker for life, as even if he's been in the South for, since he was 23, 24 years old. But we always rooted for the Mets. It was hard for him not to talk shit to me when the Mets played the Braves and the Mets would win for sure. But he was always really nice about it.
So when you get drafted by the Braves, was there a little bit like, oh man, or was did he take all of his Mets gear and burn it or throw it away and say, okay, here we go, Braves?
Oh, it was here we go, Braves. For sure. He still has a soft place in his heart for the Mets, but it's pretty much whoever I'm playing for now is who his favorite team is usually.
Okay. So you mentioned you were Tar Heels fan.
Yeah.
How great is it? Once again, that's like, I've been very fortunate. I've covered a lot of big events, but I've never gone to like a Duke, North Carolina game or anything. Like, have you done that?
No, it's on the bucket list. I just haven't, when I was growing up in high school and stuff, and even when I got college at Georgia, that's an expensive ticket to go to that game. So you either got to break out your wallet or know somebody pretty good. So that's on my list. I'll go. So I was a big Carolina basketball fan. My mom went there, but my grandpa actually played basketball there back in the 50s.
Really?
Yeah, and so his name is Jippy Carter. He's passed now, but he played there. Was a decent player. And so I grew up really loving it because of him too as well. And I got to go to 1 or 2 cool events with him, like reunions and stuff in Chapel Hill. And so it was a cool experience for sure. So
wait a second. Your grandpa's name was Jimmy Carter?
Jippy, Jippy. Yeah, nickname Jippy. James is his real name.
Well, still James Carter. He could have gone Jimmy Carter, and down there in Georgia, Jimmy Carter would have played pretty well.
It would have, yeah, for sure.
All right, so it's a new year, 2022. But you know who's that old, reliable friend that you can count on? That's right. It's our friend at Dugout Mugs. So if you got somebody that has a birthday coming up, or if you just want to get your friend or family member something special, Dugout Mugs is the way to go, right? They got the nifty engraving. And then don't forget about the only metal baseball bat turned into a mug. It can keep things hot. It can keep things cold. So it's multi-dimensional, right? The more you can do, the better you're going to be. My favorite thing is, of course, the knob shot, right? Look at how cute this little thing is. It's got my old Cleveland logo on it. I'm sure they'll send me one with the new Cleveland Guardians logo on it. So you can fire back the shots, order 2, 3, or 4. You get a whole group of friends together and you go, "Dude, let's go. Here we go." And when you're done, impress all your friends. There's a little trick that Plouffe taught me. Yeah. I mean, holy smokes. If you didn't have enough talent already and you learn how to do this, I mean, who's not going to invite you to the next banger party? Huh? That's simple. So once again, it is Dugout Mugs. Use the code word JOMBOY. You're going to get 30% off of the site. Go out and enjoy. Get your metal, get your heavy duty, get your wind up, get your knob shots galore. They're all there. You'll be the life of the party and then some. You know what? You mentioned your mom. I want to get to your big league debut. We see this a handful of times every year where mom and dad are in the stands and they are bawling their eyes out. And when I saw this, I just watched it for the first time a couple hours ago. I loved every minute of this. Could you appreciate what she was going through?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's a long road to get there, and a lot of sacrifices by my family, by my parents growing up and taking me to practices. And my mom was the one that my mom didn't work, my dad did, and she always took me to all my practices, all my games and stuff. And so to get to share that moment with them was pretty special. It's crazy. It seems so long ago, but also seems just like it was yesterday. But yeah, it was nice to be able to share that moment with her and my rest of my family.
We're showing video of her just crying her eyes out and celebrating and hugging everyone. And just what a fantastic moment. What was it like after you preserved that victory and you got to talk to them for the first time as a real big leaguer?
Yeah, it was cool. I was one of the fortunate ones because I got drafted in 12 and then I debuted end of May of 13. And so literally Athens is just over an hour from Atlanta. So, I had a bunch of friends that were still in school that came up and a bunch of family and people we know around the city that got to come and be part of it. And that was the first day I got called up. I got to get in. I was one of the lucky ones there too. They scored a bunch of runs in like the 8th or 9th, and we got up by 7 or 8. And so they put me in that 9th inning to finish it. And I damn near BMAC McCann. The lights at Turner were tough, and I have a little bit of astigmatism in my eye. So at night I have a little bit harder time seeing. So I crossed BMAC up on my debut like twice and almost killed him. And he came and sat in my locker after the game. He's like, "All right, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this?" And so that was pretty funny after the game. I was really worried about him being pissed at me for almost killing him. But then get to see my parents and everybody in the tunnel afterwards and going to get dinner. I had friends that came in, some coaches that came in, going to grab dinner and just soaking in that moment. That was probably as present as I've been ever since. It's a fight the whole way. And so once you get into it, it's hard to appreciate, other moments as much as you do your debut, but just a cool experience. And I couldn't be more thankful to have shared that with my whole family.
2 things. You should have gone the Rick Vaughn glasses if you had the stigmatism. I mean, how badass would that have been, right? Could have gone that way.
I tried some glasses for a minute, but they got too foggy. I don't know how guys wear glasses.
Number 2, your hair has improved 1,000 times since your major league debut.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. I rocked a buzz cut from the time I was about 8 to the time I was literally 22 years old. And so I saw all these guys starting to get cool haircuts and growing their hair out. So I'm like, all right, maybe I should. That's the adult thing to do, I guess. And so I grew it out and moved on from the buzz cut.
I've gotten to know Freddie Freeman a little bit from interviewing him over the years. Is he as nice as he seems?
Yeah, most of the time. It depends on what day you catch him on. No, Freddie's awesome, man. I'll tell you. So this past year, so I've always started with the Braves. Me, Kimbrel, Jordan Walden, if you remember him.
Sure, hard throwing right-hander.
Yeah, through Cheese, the guy jumped down the mount. So they got me into like ordering authentic jerseys and like big guys who are playing and stuff like that, sending them over to sign either current or former players on other teams. And so for my first year on, I started a pretty big collection of jerseys and get guys to sign them. And I actually got them all up in my house now. But this past year, I'd always wanted to get bats from other guys, like game used bats, and just ask them to sign them. But, like to do that, like I feel like you got to play a certain amount of time or be a certain level to like ask a star player, on another team for a bat, especially if you don't know him. So this past year, I finally felt comfortable enough to where like I reached out to a lot of guys that we were playing throughout the year that I respected or was friends with, because I wanted to put a bat display in my house. My wife and I just built a new house. So Freddie signed a bat for me, and it's probably my favorite bat. I've got like 30 of them that I got this past year, and it's probably my favorite bat. And he just because of what he wrote on there. He wrote on there, love competing against you. You're the best dog to ever do it. Love you, Freddie. It was one of my favorites that he did. So Freddie's a great guy. He's been nothing but good to me, and our wives are pretty close still. And he's a good friend for sure.
So when they end up winning that elusive championship for the Braves, obviously you're pissed off because you guys got eliminated in that first round. But was there somewhat of a heartwarming feeling considering you started your career there? Obviously, Freddie Freeman is a guy I imagine you have other people behind the scenes that you're still relatively close with. What is it like when you're not in that organization anymore? Did you have any special feelings, or was it just like, nah, no big?
No, for sure. I mean, I think you get tied more to the people. It wasn't necessarily a Braves thing, more like Freddie, Jock Peterson, a couple other guys on that team that I know, and Brian Snicker. I've known Snit. He was my third base coach when I came up with the Braves in 2013. And just some of the best guys you could be around in this game. And but honestly, overall, I just was my wife. We live in Atlanta in the off season, and I was just ecstatic for the city of Atlanta. The Braves and the Dogs, man, they just live and breathe it here. And so it just was really cool to see them pull a championship this year for the Braves. And if Georgia does it next week, the city might implode. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's been a good year for Atlanta sports for sure.
Did you feel like you got shortchanged a little bit because you didn't get that drive through the streets and you left the team after winning a championship? Is there a little bit of that, or were you like, hey, winning a ring was good enough for me?
I mean, winning a ring is good enough for me, but yeah, we would have liked to have a parade. We talked about it for a long time. We were fortunate. Not many places you go, keep the same group of core guys for so long. We probably had, at least half our roster played together for 4 or 5 plus years. Yep. And so obviously going to 2 World Series and losing, like the people in LA, man, they love the Dodgers. Like you're hard pressed to go anywhere and see a more passionate fan base. It's just pretty remarkable how much they love the Dodgers everywhere you go there. And so if they would have thrown a parade, it would have been it would have been something else. That whole city, they would have had to cancel work because you wouldn't have been able to go anywhere with the traffic. It would have been crazy. And so, that part really stinks that we didn't get to partake in that, because you put in, it's so hard to win the World Series, and you put in all that work, individually and as a group, and to get to that point, not get to celebrate the way you should have, was tough. But obviously, childhood dreams coming true, winning a ring. So you got to be happy with that.
So we're showing pictures for those of you that are joining us audio only. I imagine it was your first trip to LA as a Giant where you and Jake McGee got your rings. Was it weird the way it happened?
Yeah, I still remember walking over. We were going into the press room or whatever, and seeing Freeman and him looking at me and going, "Nice orange shoes." But yeah, it was a weird deal. It was a weird deal this year for me. Playing. mean, I spent the majority of my career. I mean, I think, golly, how many seasons? 15, 16, 17, 18, 5 years in LA with a lot of the same guys. And then you go to their arch nemesis, the Giants, the next year, and having to play them 19 times or however many times we played them with the playoffs, 20 sometimes. It's a strange deal, man, for sure. Because I mean, people forget that, these are the 750 best players on earth at any given time in Major League Baseball. Like, yeah, those are my friends, but sometimes when you play your friends, you want to beat them worse than you want to do just somebody you don't know. And so, I got that feeling from some of the guys, at some point. But I have nothing but deep respect for everybody in that clubhouse. I love a lot of those guys. I'm still close with a good handful of them, and so I just am grateful to get to compete against them. And we had a lot of awesome battles this past year, and so now it looks like I got 2 more years of those battles. So we'll see what happens.
Answer this question. The biggest difference between playing for the Dodgers and playing for the Giants is?
That's a tough question, man. The biggest difference, I mean, from a purely baseball perspective, I mean, there's really probably a lot more similarities than differences. I mean, God, I don't know how to answer. You put me on the spot.
Is it the philosophy of the organizations? Is it the way, because they're very different cities. I've lived in LA for 22 years. Yeah. I love San Francisco, and I've never met people that are more opposite in my life, even though they're only a 5-hour drive apart.
For sure. Like from a city perspective, obviously LA's a ton bigger. I think the coolest thing about San Francisco this past year was getting to really explore and live in the city and see what San Francisco is all about. I had never, all the years I've been going and playing there, you post up at the hotel downtown, you go to the park, and that's really it. You might venture out for some food every now and then. But Chris, I don't know if I have anything that's like a huge difference. Obviously, like Farhan, I was with Farhan in LA, and he's in San Francisco. Obviously, they're both at the forefront of analytics and pushing the envelope as far as, getting an edge. I mean, these days there's no big difference, in terms of teams that are winning winning division and making the playoffs. Everybody's looking for incremental gains. There's no massive difference philosophically speaking, at least in my mind, between LA and San Francisco. It's just they're trying to push the game forward to get like small edges, every day in whatever capacity that may be, whether it's pitching, hitting, defense, shifting, whatever it may be. And so I really can't think of like a major difference, in the two, besides how they construct their roster and how they spend their money. That's probably the biggest thing.
Is it maybe the fact that the Dodgers manager actually looks like he's getting older, like the rest of us, while the Giants manager looks like he's getting younger?
I know Cap's probably gonna watch this. He probably loves that you said that too, and I love it. It's when Cap told me I think Cap's 48.
Yeah.
I think he's 48. I knew Cap was in his 40s, but I thought he was like 42. When he told me he was 48 this year, I was like, oh my God. But honestly, I've actually told people this, like, obviously to look the way Cap does, you have to be as disciplined of a human as you can be, in all aspects of your life. But I've told people that as disciplined as he is with, working out and his diet and all that stuff, he's as disciplined at getting better at everything, in his life. And it's something I truly do respect about Cap. I've never met somebody that really goes in every single day, and not even just in baseball, that just truly, he's yoked. It's crazy. But they just truly tries to get better every single day and be better each day that he goes along. And I really respect that a lot about him.
He's in better shape than probably anybody on the team. I'm just going to say it.
Oh, it's no question.
He wins.
Literally.
Hey, Millard told me when he played with him back in the day, he said it would piss him off. Millard would say, Kapler would take like a piece of chocolate, right? And he'd put it in his mouth and he'd swish it around and he'd spit it out. Just so he could get a little taste of it, but wouldn't like get the enzymes or something that would screw up your body. I'm like,
that's discipline.
Discipline. That's insane.
I know.
There's a major difference.
I just have to keep it all away from me. If it's around me, I'll eat it. If it's not in my vicinity, I'm good. But I could not take a bite of it and not swallow whatever.
No way. No way.
Hey, the NFL playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is kicking things off with a huge offer. Counting down to Super Bowl 56, new customers can get 56-1 odds on any wildcard team to win their game. Just bet $5 and you could have the chance to win $280 in free bets if your team is victorious. That's right, just bet $5 on any NFL playoff game and DraftKings Sportsbook will give new customers an additional $280 in free bets if the team they choose wins their game. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you still have something to play for this wildcard weekend. New York, it is legal now. Let's go. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily's fantasy football contests. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code JOMBOY, and get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Just bet $5 and win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code JOMBOY at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL.
So you came up with the Braves. I think I want to start with this because pitchers love talking about hitting. We might have a DH, so your hitting career might be done. You have the strangest first hit I think I've ever seen.
That was intentional. Tried for a bunt for hit off Arrieta.
Really?
Oh yeah, that was on purpose. But he drilled me in the back.
Do you think that was intentional?
No, it wasn't intentional. I think he was trying to get me. I think he was trying to get me out, but I'm just so fast. It was too late of a throw. But yeah, that was an interesting way. Man, I'll tell you what, Chris. I was actually just talking with somebody, Dylan Cease. I was talking today when we were training about this. I literally went from I didn't have a single at bat between 18 years old in high school to my big league debut. I didn't have a single AB.
What?
And so my first like 45 ABs, I was like 0 for 45 with like 32 strikeouts. Like I literally could not make contact. I will say that like the first 5 or 6 starts I had were against a gauntlet of velocity. I think I faced Nathan Eovaldi twice, throwing 100. I faced Danny Salazar in 2013. I think he led the league in average velocity that year. I know I had at least 1, maybe 2 starts against Matt Harvey in 2013, which was his best year. They just killed me. They killed me.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at that.
No, it's fine. You can laugh. You can laugh.
So were you like a decent hitter in high school?
Yeah, I raked in high school.
Oh, what do you 100%.
Yeah, I raked in high school. I was, I think I hit like 430 my senior year with a couple homers. I was all-state player of the year, DH and pitcher.
Oh, you were DH? So
I was the DH and our best starter. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's good. You still have that ball somewhere, or is it just embedded in your back?
It might still in my back. No, it's probably, I actually finally just got to move out of all of our storage units into our house. So I think it's probably sitting somewhere upstairs in a box somewhere.
Okay. All right, cool. You learned about the business side of baseball in the middle of 2015 when you got traded. Did it hurt?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that I've always from the start, I always tried to, learn as much from that side of it as I could. And, but there's some things you can only learn as you go. And so I still literally remember like it was yesterday. I was off to a pretty good start to my career. We're in Baltimore. I was having a solid season, but regardless of the season I was having, I still had like 4 years of control, as far as service goes. And I remember we're in the dugout. I think I started the day before. I was in the dugout, and Chris Johnson and Shelby Miller came out in the dugout, and they came up to me and they go, "Hey, it sounds like you might get traded." And I'm like, "Ha, like funny joke." Cause I'm like, there's no way like I'm a controllable starter. Like that's decent. It's going to get traded. Like, unless it's like a crazy trade. So they're like, "No, I'm being dead serious." So I'd go back in the clubhouse, pull up my phone, and pull up Twitter and see if there's some rumblings like about me getting traded. So I'm like literally heartbroken, that this might be true. So I'm like calling my agent in the middle of the game, like trying to see what's going on, blah, blah. He's like, nothing has happened like at all. Like it's only speculation, blah, blah. So, but at this point, the traction had picked up so much that, only an idiot would think that this wasn't going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we've seen stuff does happen where it's like the trade's done and then it falls through, whatever. So that Freddie Gonzalez calls us into his office, because it was me and Jim Johnson and Luis Avalon called all three of us into the office after the game. And I was like kind of mad or like pissed off. And I just wanted to know what was going on. So he sits us down. He's like, you guys have not been traded. Like there's been no trade that's happened. And I was like, Freddie, it's all over. I was like, Skipper, it's all over Twitter. Like, it's got to be some truth to it. And I was kind of mad. And he was like, nothing has happened. So then we go back to the hotel that night, go to sleep. Nothing happened. I don't know if we traveled that night. I think we traveled that day to Philly. I think we just bussed down to Philly. So I hop on the bus the next day at 1:00 to go to the field at Citizens Bank, and ring. Freddie Gonzalez is calling me. And as soon as I saw his name on my phone, I knew. I was like, I just got traded. So he's like, hey, Woody, he's like, I hate to say this, blah, blah. Like, you've been traded to the Dodgers. And I was, at that point, I knew it was a possibility. I wasn't as shell shocked as the day before. Packed up our stuff and hopped on a flight to LA, and the rest was history. And it's actually kind of crazy though. My agent, I went to breakfast with him a week before that. And at that point I'd played at a decent amount of stadiums in my career. And he was like, if there was anywhere else that you'd want to play, he's like, do you have anywhere else you'd like to play? And I told him, I was like, I love pitching at Dodger Stadium. And then literally a week later, I was traded to the Dodgers. It was wild, really wild.
So let me get back to that. You said you were pissed off. How in the world does Chris Johnson know you're getting traded and nobody from the team approaches you about that possibility?
Well, he saw it on Twitter. Saw speculation from Chris Rose on Twitter.
Definitely wasn't me.
But yeah. And so literally just, I mean, the same way pretty much everyone finds out these days. I mean, most people find out they're getting traded or have a chance to be traded, or they're in deep talks on Twitter. You know, most of the time, that's honestly how it happens, unless like when I got traded to Cincinnati, my last year of control before I was a free agent in 19, just Andrew Friedman and I are really close, and there was nothing at all about me being traded or anything. And he called me personally before anything came out and told me, hey, I'm calling you. You're the only one I've been able to call. Like, it's about to break that we've just traded you to you and Kyle Farmer and a huge trade to the Reds or whatever. And he's like, but I wanted you to hear it from me. And I respected the hell out of that. I deeply appreciated that, but it's just, things happen so fast, and somehow, somehow people get information before we do. It really is crazy sometimes.
What is it like when you get traded mid-season to the Dodgers in 2015? Like when you walk into a brand new clubhouse and you're expected to help them get to the promised land where they hadn't been since '88. Do guys like immediately come up and they introduce, hey, I'm Clayton Kershaw. How are you?
Yeah, so they stuck me right next to Clayton on my locker when I got traded over, and we were locker mates pretty much my entire time there. But yeah, everybody was super cool. I think that was starting to get right into the middle. I think they'd won 2 division titles, possibly 13 and 14. I believe they won the division.
Sure. So
that was like right at the start of what they've built their behemoth into. And so I think there just the excitement was really real around the clubhouse. Andrew made a big splash at the deadline and traded for me, Jim, and Luis Avalon. And it was nice to not be the only one showing up. It was nice to, show up with Jim Johnson, who's been around the block for a long time. And then obviously Luis Avalon, I played my whole career with, and is a great guy. And so that definitely helped out. But I mean, we had such a good group of guys in LA, and there was such a good group of guys that were there. I mean, they welcomed everybody with open arms, and we just put our nose down and played hard and won that division and made a run at it, and didn't quite make it to the World Series that year, but was just an awesome first experience for me for sure.
So you're locker mates with Kershaw. How long before you brought up the whole, hey, I know you grew up with Matthew Stafford. I'm a big Georgia guy.
I mean, probably I don't remember, but I guarantee within the first 48 hours of us talking. And I love, because Clayton calls Stafford Matthew, and I love it. Like I think only Stafford's close friends call him Matthew, and so I always loved that he said Matthew, and it was just, I mean, 2 freaking superstars at the same high school. I think Kershaw was Stafford's center.
He was his center. Got ejected from a game. We know the whole story. Blah blah blah.
So good.
Yeah. Well, all right. So what's the one thing you can tell us about Clayton Kershaw? Don't give me the whole, he works harder than everybody. I've heard that. Like, I get it. He's super intense on game day. Like, I know all that, but you were his locker mate for years. Give me one good thing about Clayton.
So you've heard this before. I think the two funniest game day things for Clayton for me are he's cleats on at like 2:30 till game time the day he pitched. Like he literally puts his cleats on, unlaced usually. That, and no matter where we are, we're home or on the road, there's always one table in the training room that is completely emphatically off limits. No one the entire day for any of his starts will touch that table. And Possum, who's now, I think he got promoted, but was a massage therapist when I was there. You've probably seen him or met him before. He makes sure that nobody touches Clayton's table, because Clayton will go in there usually, I don't know, 3:30, 4, and he'll lay on there, nap or just chill out until he has to start warming up and get going. So those are two of my favorite Clayton tidbits for sure.
And nobody fucks around with Kershaw, right? Like on game day, you just let him be.
No, I feel like the further we went along, I mean, he would talk to guys a little bit if they would talk to him, but he usually will not engage on start day with a lot of people at all. Like the most minimum amount of engagement typically on start day as you could have.
How often did you pick his brain, being a fellow left-hand? I mean, I know you guys have different mechanics and all sorts of stuff, but I mean, how can you not? How often would you sit there and just talk ball?
Yeah, we talk a lot, and we had a lot of guys, over the years, like pitching wise throughout LA that, I mean, really were students of the game. Like everybody really enjoyed, talking to each other about baseball, about pitching, why are you doing this? How do you grip that? That was, I think, a big part of our culture. And I think that's how guys get better. They learn from each other. And so, I don't know that it was one specific thing, but we all were in the dugout. I mean, you see Clayton. I mean, he's always in the corner of the dugout by the hitting coaches, or sitting on the top bench in between a couple pitchers, whether it's Walker or like Scherzer, Spasher, or whoever. And they're always talking. And a lot of time we're usually talking ball, whether it's something that spurs a conversation during that game, a specific pitcher, it just, and the thing I always appreciated about Clayton is like, you have to have some type of love for the game. Obviously a lot of guys get to a point, where it is your job, and people don't understand that. But I've always really truly admired how much Clayton loves baseball and loves the game of baseball, because everybody is not that way. Right. And to have someone that, I mean, is in my opinion, the greatest left-handed pitcher that's ever walked this planet, just truly love baseball that much and love it like I do, was just probably my favorite thing about him, and something I really admired.
You have played with some phenomenal players.
Yeah, I've been lucky to play with a lot of good ones, man.
Who's the guy that in 40 years, when you're bouncing your grandkids on your knee, you'd be like, yeah, I played with him? Like, who's going to be the one, if you could just tell one story? Is it Kershaw? Is it Freddie Freeman? Is it Mookie Betts? Is it Buster Posey? Is it somebody I'm not mentioning?
Oh, man.
And this is not a slam on anybody else. It's not like if you pick one, it's just like we all love ice cream,
sure.
But there just could be one where you're like, I am drawn to that. Just if I were a fan, I would pay to go see that.
Man, it's a tough question to answer, because I love them all. They're all so damn good. It's hard not to say Kirsch. I mean, I'll never forget for the rest of my life seeing him eclipse 300 punch out mark in 2015. And I only got to see half that season, but I mean, witnessing him, it was just, I mean, he doesn't get, I mean, he gets a lot of credit, but he doesn't get the credit that he should get for how great he's been. If you pull up Clayton's baseball reference, you won't find another baseball reference that looks like Clayton's for anybody. I mean, it's one of the greatest 12-year runs, I mean, ever, really. Like, I mean, the guy, I think, has had 1 year in his career where he had above a 3. It was like his 2 years, his rookie year, and then like one other year in the past 10 years that he's had above a 3 ERA. people do not understand. That is impossible. Like, it's impossible. Like, it's seriously, I mean, you have to be so flipping good to have a sub-3 for 1 year, much less every year of your career, except for 2. Like, it's just, it's bananas. And obviously people, I mean, Clayton's so well respected, such a great guy. Everybody knows Clayton. So, I mean, I'd imagine that 40 years from now, I would have somebody ask me if I played with Clayton Kershaw, and I would say, yes, I did. And it was, you know, one of the coolest things about my career, for sure.
Awesome. True or false? You are still in the Dodgers Fantasy Football League.
No, false. Yeah, I won it, and then I went to the Giants.
Oh, it was a mic drop for you.
Yeah, it was a mic drop, not really by choice, obviously, but yeah. So obviously, I signed with the Giants. Got in their league this year, lost in the first round. But my last year in the Dodgers league, I won it. So that was pretty cool. When I was in LA, I mean, LA, San Francisco, I mean, everywhere I've been, Cincinnati, Atlanta, we always had really, really competitive fantasy football leagues. And honestly, it's probably, besides traveling, it's probably my favorite hobby in the off season is playing fantasy football. I absolutely love, and I'm addicted to it.
Okay. I got to hit this a little bit, and then we're going to wrap up. But who knocked you out of the playoffs this year?
Oh, who did I lose to in the first round? Oh, that's a good. I can't remember who I lost to. So I didn't lose to Gossman. I didn't lose to our medical. No, I think I lost to our medical staff.
Oh, the medical staff got you.
Yeah, they won the league.
Oh man. Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
Who is the one guy that you've played with wherever, whether it's been at LA, Cincinnati, San Francisco, whatever fantasy league? There's always one player who thinks he could legitimately be an NFL GM. Who is that?
Austin Barnes, for sure. And you know, if you asked him that, he'd probably say me because of how addicted we both are to fantasy football. But yeah, Barnes fully immersed in fantasy and would definitely think he could probably be a football GM for sure.
Makes sense. All right. Before we get you out of here, we are going to spin the wheel. Can I save this? Oh, I do want to ask you this. How important was it for you to sign your contract before the lockout?
Yeah, I mean, it was important for sure. You know, it was something that I was hoping to do before the lockout, because you just don't know how long the lockout will go and what will happen. And obviously, like, you know, knowing where you're going to be, you know, the next year, no matter when you sign, or lockout or no lockout, is the earlier the better. You know, you can kind of just rest easy. You can focus on your training. You can start to get your housing and all that set up or whatnot. So I was really fortunate, you know, to get my deal done before, and really just excited to be back with the Giants. We had such a good group of guys this past year, and a lot of them are coming back, and great staff. And just my wife and I really just loved everything about the city and the team. So really fortunate to be going back there.
That's good. How much are you paying attention to the lockout? Like, do you call your player rep constantly, or are you just like, whatever, I'll show up when they tell me?
Yeah, you know, I tried to be really involved for a long time. You know, I've probably taken a little bit of a step back as far as being in the know, because it can get really frustrating, you know, to a degree at some time, like at some points. But you know, I'm staying up to date. You know, I have guys that I know. You know, I text Scherzer if I really want to get into some things and hear what's going on, and obviously like our player reps and other guys that I've got relationships around the league, just to see their opinions and hear what's going on. You know, the momentum that the league had before the lockout, you know, it's such an exciting off season. You know, I mean, I couldn't remember, you know, a more exciting off season and fans being more engaged and more excited with teams, you know, a lot of teams trying to win, trying to sign guys and make their squads better. And so just really is a shame as a fan of baseball that we are here. And I think, you know, as a normal person, normal human being, you know, it's hard. Like, you know, none of the players ever feel like, you know, anybody's asking for anything more than just what we deserve or what we've earned, you know, just our fair share. And I think that the hardest thing when you have that perspective or coming from that side of things is you can't understand the amount of greed to a degree, because like as a reasonable person, you know, you would think that working together, you know, to come to, you know, something that works for everybody, it ends up being better in the long run. You know what I'm saying? And so it's hard to really understand what's going on to that degree, and the amount of greed that's involved, from the ownership side of things, because that's what it is, that we could come to an agreement and everybody could be happy. At least that's my opinion. And it just is unfortunate that that's not the case. So, you hope it gets worked out, and you hope spring training goes off without a hitch and we can start the season on time. But I feel like to a degree it's almost out of our hands, a little bit. And so we'll see what happens. But I'm optimistic that spring training will start on time, and we'll see.
You hit on something big, man. Those last 2.5 to 3 weeks before the lockout started was the most enjoyable off season I've seen.
Yeah, it was
really
a blast, man. The fan engagement, everything, and that's how you build excitement for the sport.
Totally.
And so it stinks that it ended abruptly, but hopefully, there'll be another frenzy when the lockout ends. So
sure as hell will be. Quick, get those jobs.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time to spin the wheel of moderately interesting things. Bunch of categories, very simple. I'm not that smart, so the questions are not very difficult. Stevie's wondering, what's your biggest superstition?
Ooh, I'm kind of a superstitious human.
Ooh.
So I've come out of my shell a little bit over the past couple of years, but I've always pretty much eaten start days, eaten the exact same thing on start days. And, I usually try and go to bed right at the same exact time the night before start. Something more basic. I've never intentionally stepped on a foul line in my entire career.
Ever. One of those. You're one of those.
Never. And it pains me when I see people step on it. It really does. It pains me. I'm like, because it's it probably doesn't mean or do anything, but at the same time, just don't do it. You don't know. You don't know if the baseball gods are going to get you. So I've never stepped on the line ever.
You're probably too young, but when I was young, we used to have the saying, you step on a crack and you break your mother's back. That's why for the longest time, and I would try to avoid all the little cracks on the sidewalk. And if I stepped on one, I'd want to run into my house and make sure my mom was okay. So it sounds like.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's that.
I avoid cracks too sometimes.
Wow.
Because of that saying, honestly, I remember that in elementary school, but I'm more lenient on that than I am the foul line. I never step on the foul line.
There's got to be a guy on one of your teams that knows that really eats at you and probably steps on it intentionally and wants to stare you down.
I've seen Cap step on the line going to a mound visit, swear, and I never said anything to him, but in my heart, I'm like, oh, it hurts me. No matter who it is, it hurts me. But most people aren't superstitious, but that's one thing that I always notice if somebody steps on the line.
Oh, that's great. What's the same food that you eat every day? Anything interesting?
Usually the night before, steak and potatoes, some type of a bowl, Chipotle, or some type of bowl for lunch, and then a smoothie that I'll make myself at 4 right before I go to start warming up for the game.
It's a lot of steak. You start every 5 days.
Yeah, well, that's the one. The night before is not as often as it used to be, but start day with the bowl and the smoothie is automatic.
Hey, listen, you're still young. Let's cut that meat back intake a little bit. I want you to pitch a long time, but maybe we just change it up to chicken occasionally or something.
Well, I'll try it out. I'll try my first start this year. I'll try it out. I'll let you know how it goes.
I mean, listen, they've got amazing food in San Francisco, so you should be good to go.
Yes, they do. Yes, and our clubhouse. They're a clubhouse. Our chefs kill it in the clubhouse. They do an awesome job.
Yeah. This was fun, man. I appreciate you hanging out as long as you did. We got to cover a ton of topics. This was fun. This was really, really good.
No, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. And stay healthy. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
We'll be rooting. Yeah, I mean, I've had enough of, Nick Saban not smiling at championship time. Please.
It is amazing. I saw a stat last week. They were like, Nick Saban had 8 players drafted in the first round just last year and replaced them all, and they're back in the national championship. So you got to respect it. But I'm ready for the dethroning to happen, so we'll see what happens.
Dude, Kirby Smart is going to go nuts. Can you imagine that guy celebrating if they end up winning?
I literally love Kirby Smart so much. He's so
Good
much
stuff.
fun to watch. Seems like the guys love him.
All right, listen, go enjoy the rest of your off season. Hopefully it's not as long as we think it might be.
We'll see.
Let's stay in touch. Let's do this at some point during the regular season.
Yeah, sounds great, man. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Thanks very much for tuning in to the Chris Rose Rotation. Special shout out to our producer extraordinaire, the one and only Robbie Scirocco. I'm Chris Rose. We'll see you next time on the Rose Rotation, a production of JOMBOY Media.